Now we're going to showcase Isle of Monsters with Josh DeBonis and Mayday Hayes. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Josh DeBonis. I'm from Bumblebear Games. We mostly make arcade games like Killer Queen and Pixel Prison Blues. But this is a side project that I made that's a tabletop game called Isle of Monsters. I co-designed it with my friend Nico, Nicola Rostevsky. He's in France visiting his family right now, otherwise he'd be here. Great illustrator did the art for this, Quan Chai Maria, who's also done a lot of other great tabletop art. And so the game was just published by Mayday. They just ran a Kickstarter for it. It ended 2 days ago, did pretty well. And so it's kind of nice that that's done. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how the game works. This is the back of the box. It's about a half-hour game, 2 to 5 players. It's a family-friendly game, about 10 and up. It's maybe a light to medium weight tabletop game. So the way that you set it up differs depending on the number of players that you have. There's always this center island, the round island in the middle, but you set up a different number of spokes depending on the number of players. So we put one spoke between each player. And so this was sort of our initial conceit for the game, was to have a game where your position sitting at the table determines what you have access to in the game. And so I'll explain that in a minute, but you can see how, like, with three players, there's 3 spokes, with 5 players, there's 5 spokes. So everybody starts with one of these cage boards in front of them. Here's just an overhead view. So, and you put there's a pile of cards on each of the spokes. Those are the monsters, and then there's also these little wooden tokens that are the round bits you can see on the center island and also on the spokes. So there's basically 3 phases that you just keep repeating this. So the first thing you do is the nurture phase. So you have these 3 cages, each of which can hold a monster, and so you can pick a monster from either of the spokes adjacent to you. So if you're this bottom player, if you're this player right here, you can pick the monster over here or the monster over here. You can't access the monster on the opposite spoke. So so during that phase, you can choose to pick one of these monsters, or you can pick one of the resources that's either on the center board. There are these little wooden discs.
Hey Doom, how are you?
Or the ones on the spokes too. So you can pick either of those. So if you pick a monster, you put it in the cage. And so here's just to explain like what the monsters look like. Each of them is a different color and a different number. And the higher numbers are better, but they also take a lot more food to mature them. And so the colored spaces, the colored spaces on here, these are the food that you need to feed them in order to mature them. And this is their value up here. And then they can scare monsters of this color, which I'll explain that in a minute.
Life in my shoes.
So you can take a monster, put it in a cage. You can also take the discs and put them on monsters that you have. So like this monster, for instance, he needs 3 of the yellow discs, which are mushrooms. There's mushrooms, blueberries, and strawberries. So after everybody's done drafting these cards and resources, your monsters mature. That's the second phase. So anything that's been completely fed is mature. You bring it into your hand, and then you'll have a hand of these monsters. That's, the first turn you'll only have 1 or maybe 2. By the end of the game, maybe you'll have 7 or 8, maybe 10, if you get a lot of smaller ones. And then finally you have the scare phase, and this is where you earn your points. So everybody will pick a card secretly.
Sweet, congrats.
And when you've all chosen one, you flip it over at the same time, and whoever plays the highest number gets 3 points. And you keep repeating that until everybody's played their cards. Now here's the tricky part, is you can actually play sets of cards as well, if they're the same color. So in this case, the left player played 2 yellow cards, the right player played 3 blue cards. The total value wins. So the bottom player has the highest total there, they get 3 points. And then also, you can score points by scaring the other monsters. So remember before how I said that symbol in the top right is the color that they scare? If the player's adjacent to you,
This is a tabletop
and this goes back to
game,
that initial
so it's
idea
like a
of it
different
being
type
about
of,
who's sitting
obviously
next to you.
gaming, but
If the
I
player
mean,
sitting
you
next
guys
to you
should
has
sit
that
and
color,
like
then
watch
you
the
put a
whole
point for
stream.
staring
This is
at
my
them. And
first
they
time
have this
streaming live from my
triangular
phone.
kind of a rock paper scissors relationship.
Hopefully I
Where
don't
blue
lose
scares
connection.
yellow, yellow scares brown, and brown scares blue.
I fear the
So
reaper.
and then that phase, there's kind of two different ways that it can play out. One is that you go for really big numbers and try and get these 3 points at a time by getting a higher combo, or you can try and play a lot of smaller cards that beat your opponent's colors like this and get a bunch of smaller individual points. And so you just after that you replenish the board, you put more resources, more cards back out, and you just keep repeating that process. And then you play it for a certain number of rounds, and
Cool streaming outside
and that's
my
it. And you
house.
total your points at the end. There's also a 2-player mode, which this was really interesting. We didn't initially anticipate it as a 2-player game. It was originally just 3 to 5, and we realized like it was kind of easier to market if it could also be 2 players. And so we made this variant with 2 players, where you get 2 boards each. And I actually like it better than the 3 to 5 player game. I think it's a little more strategic, and for me, it just really hits like a certain sweet spot as to where the game really shines. This was the original prototype that we gave to Mayday Games, and you can see it kind of has a little bit of a darker theme than what you see now, which is very family friendly. In fact, it was originally called Adoravores, and even with these are some sketches that Mayday made. So it's a lot darker, and the idea was instead of being these monsters that ate mushrooms and blueberries and things like that, it was these more mean, scary monsters that ate cute, cuddly animals like baby wombats and stuff. So, which I still like, but I think they made the right decision as far as going a little more family friendly. Also, originally they were going to go with this title. But they ended up changing it at the last minute because it actually, if you Googled it, it would return porn links. And so, especially because they were really going for the family-friendly aspect, it was just a non-starter. And so they had to change it at the last minute.
Are you enjoying the test stream outside
So yeah,
the house
that's
so
Isle of
far?
Monsters. Thanks so much. The Kickstarter's over. And they don't have it for sale yet on the website, but if you want to buy it, you can just email them, Kickstarter at Mayday Games, and they'll send you the information as soon as it's available to actually buy. And also, one last thing I have to plug, I'm doing a class here for Playcrafting on September 13th. It's a Tuesday night. It's called Arcade Game Design Basics. And we're going to just talk about all the factors that go into designing and developing and selling arcade games in the modern marketplace and for the new arcade and talking about what the new arcade really is. And so, yeah, thanks. That's Isle of Monsters. If you have any questions. Yeah.
So with the 2-player setup and the spokes, how does it work with the arcade
Oh yeah, so you have 2 boards. You each have 2 boards, and there's 2 spokes. So my right board, I can put resources from the right spoke onto the right board, and I
doing my job.
put resources from the left spoke onto the left board.
As a game journalist, glad you guys are seeing this. I'm pretty excited.
We did think about revising it based on what we learned on the 2-player, and in fact, we might have even made some small changes. It was a long time ago that we really designed this, but I mean, for me, I think the 3 to 5 player game is kind of more of the core game. I just personally prefer a little more of a strategic game, which the 2-player turns out to be.
So if you guys want to know about video games and how to
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Get yourself involved, this is pretty much
it's easy to talk about the title.
I guess
when
starter.
you can show how it's written, but it is kind of confusing when you're talking to people and you're saying I love monsters, and then they assume that it's spelled very differently.
It's one of the things I love about
Yeah,
Microsoft. They offer classes to get into the video gaming industry.
Yeah, sorry, what's that? How do you get food from monsters?
Yeah.
So
It's funny,
basically
like, I
every
just
round
downloaded
there are a
an
certain
app and
number
I'm
of them in the
surprised it's
center
still
of the
working.
board and some on the outer
You guys
islands.
wanna see the
And
microphone?
on your turn, you can either take a new monster or you can take a food and put it on a monster.
All right, any more questions? All right, one more time for Josh with Isle of Monsters.
Thank you so much.
Sam, CEO, Playcrafting.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, how about I intro you?
Of course, please.
All right, so next up, we have Matt Shell from Mirrorfish Media with his game Monarch Lock. This is a game we've shown a couple of times at our events in the past. Want to show off some new levels tonight. And Matt's also coming on board as a instructor for us
glad
as
you're
well
liking
with our
this,
Learn
Charlie.
Unity in 8 weeks course. So we're excited to have him on board. Let's give it up for Matt with Monarch Lock.
I would clap, but I'm holding the phone.
Thank
Oh,
you.
afterwards is video game.
So I'm actually not going to use the mic because I need two hands to play the game. So this is Monarch Lock. It is a watch that for a second. It is a procedurally generated flying shooting game with butterflies and insects. And so the goal of the game is to fly through these levels and collect pollen grains from these kind of glowing spheres that you see, and there are enemies that try to shoot at you. So I've been working on this for maybe 2.5 years by myself. It's made in Unity. I'm running it in Unity right now. And so I have showed this once before at the demo and play nights. But what I'm going to show today is some of the new functionality that I've added to the game. A little bit similar to what Sam did.
Monarch.
And I can talk about some of the decision making in that. So the first, I'll just show you a little bit of the gameplay. I'm going to skip the tutorial. So the first thing that I added is this character select screen. This is new. So now there are sort of character profiles for the different types of butterflies that you can play as. So I'm going to choose a kind of generic monarch one. And so this decision to add the character select was kind of born out of a game balancing process, which I can talk about in a minute. But so basically, as you can see here, you can see the kind of structure of the level is growing in, and the plants are spawning, they're glowing, there's one, and there's also some shooting at me. So we have these butterflies that shoot lasers at you. And one of the decisions that I made recently was to rewrite the way the AI or artificial intelligence for the units work. So if you've seen the game before, you can see now that they have, it's a little hard to see on these guys because they're all red, but they have these red dots on their head, which is telling you kind of what they're thinking. So right now they're angry, and so they're shooting at me, so I'm going to shoot them. So the goal of the game is to collect the pollen grains which are inside these plants. And one of the things that I changed recently is that now the other enemies, in addition to trying to shoot you,
So many indies. I'm gonna say so many indies in Steam. The majority of games that come out of Playcrafting do end up on Sony indies, so you can find them under PS4 marketplace and their indie games, which is cool.
For the pollen grains. So I'm going to shoot this. So you can see these pink dots that fly out. These are the things I'm trying to collect. And you can see this guy is chasing. He was chasing after one. Oh, he's going for this one. I think he's getting confused about which one to go for. Here we go. Oh, they're kind of playing with each other. So if we get close to these, sort of like artificial stupidity fail here. He's not going for it. That's right. So basically, you can fly close to them, and if they get close to them as well, see now there are no more. Now he's mad and he's going to try to shoot me again. But so this kind of adding in this sort of little AI system really made a big difference in the gameplay, because now previously it was kind of an okay strategy to just fly towards the plants and just kind of kamikaze a little bit and shoot them and collect everything, but now unless you kill the enemies around them, they will also steal the stuff that you're trying to get. This one is kind of stuck in here. It's kind of So now that I've connected that column the gate is open to the next level. So this, I'll fly into this pink glowing light, and this is going to take me to this menu is a little bit of a place to make it look nicer later. But here we can choose some upgrades for our character. So Flutter
Hey,
allows
what's up,
us to
Braxy
dash
boy?
more quickly.
Thank you guys for watching.
Pull back our homing missiles, and this will cause us to fire 2 of our secondary projectile, which in this case is the homing missiles. So the addition of this system to the game was kind of where the character system came out of, because previously I had all of these kind of stat modifiers and different weapons in the screen, and what would happen was it was possible for the player to get these two of the most powerful weapons at the same time and just have the game get too easy. So what I've decided to do instead is to put, now each character has 2 weapons that they always have, and then they can get these stat modifiers instead. And I think it's going to help with the balance. So I'm going to choose add secondary projectile. And I'll just show you one more little piece to the next level here. So this is kind of like
music.
city ground New York, 25 years in the future. And as you can see again, the levels are growing in. Now there's more enemies. We're also adding some enemy types. See if I can get them to collect concrete. So now, this guy, yeah, there we go, he got one. Performance is a little slow on this laptop, but that's kind of work in progress. See, there they go. And you can see, right, they get this green icon on their head.
They're getting into the music.
The word collects, and now they're going back to shooting at me. Now I have 2 homing missiles, right? If they bunch up like that, I can kill them. So it's how much time I'm spending? I'll just show a little bit more. So it's a sort of a very, very distant, loose interpretation on the roguelite formula. So one of the games that was a big inspiration for me in this was Derek Hughes' Spelunky. This game is really almost nothing like Spelunky, except for the fact that it has randomly generated levels and you only get 1 life. Another sort of big influence for me was
I feel like I'm the only one that's like grooving to the music. Everybody's so serious.
more mechanically
Like I'm here like
obviously 3D and flying instead of 2D shooting game. And one thing that we didn't notice so much in the previous level, but we can see now, is you see this plant is taking damage because it's gone underwater. And so in keeping with our kind of drowned city theme, the water level is slowly rising, right? And this is actually something that I got from Spelunky, which is that I don't really want people to just take forever. I want a little bit of time pressure. I want them to feel a little bit pressed. And so if you don't sort of get about your business relatively quickly, these plants are going to be destroyed because they're underwater, and the game is going to become more challenging. So it's been a long, when I first started, this is my first game project, and when I first started with it and with making games in general, I thought, I'm not good at programming, but I have some really good ideas for game design. It turned out I was completely wrong. Game design is actually harder than programming, I think, to do well, especially when you have a little bit of an open system here where we have different things that can interact, and we have to kind of balance things against each other. So I've spent a lot of time on that, on just changing the way things work and trying to balance the game and so on. And that's probably been harder than anything else, although pretty much everything about making games is hard. It turns out, also very fun. And yeah, that's my game. I'll take some questions. Yes. a good question. So it's a mode, it's not completely finished right now, but basically the idea is that instead of, one of the feedbacks that I've gotten from people who play the game is there are certain people who don't want to shoot and kill things, but they like the artwork and they like the style, and so they
So
just
now
want to
you
fly
guys
around and
know
explore the level.
game design is harder than
I have
programming.
an ambient mode where you don't shoot anybody, and they don't shoot you. And you bump into the plants to unlock them, and the shoot button takes pictures. Yeah, it's definitely like, I love that game company and their games in general, so, you know, that was definitely, definitely inspiring. Yeah. Yeah. Why butterflies? Why not?
How big are your levels, and how much volume does it come in?
Well, the scale is not a human scale, but butterfly is probably 30 units, and the level is maybe 8,000 units. They're not huge. You could fly from one end to the other in 2 minutes. You know, they're unbounded on the side, so every level is kind of an island where you sort of kind of circle around and fly through.
You did most of the program yourself?
I did everything myself.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Only pretty good.
I'm sorry next time.
Okay, I take it back. It's very.
I'm kidding. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Yes.
At the top of the screen?
Oh, the bar?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of meters. At the top is the number of pollen grains you've collected, so basically your progress to unlock the level, and then in the bottom center is life, missile cooldown, and basically experience, which is in the center.
You get hurt by running into objects?
You do. Yeah, you take damage running into objects, you take damage if you get shot, and you take damage after a certain amount of time if you go underwater. Check the show. No, my goal, like Sam, is to be finished by the end of the year. Let's see how that goes. Steam. Yeah, no, I'm going to do HIO first, and then, so PCM Mac on Steam. Yeah. Yes?
You said you're going to be teaching Unity.
I am.
8 weeks?
The 8-week course, yeah.
And how much is that going to be?
Boy, that's Dan.
We'll talk afterward.
Yeah, talk to Dan over here. He runs the school. But yeah, this will be my first class at Playcrafting. But I have been a teacher for many years, and I've taught at New York Film Academy, and I also worked actually for Unity as a trainer for that. I made a lot of the YouTube tutorials, or most of the YouTube tutorials for that. So
Nice work.
thank you. Hey, thanks very much.
Yeah, one more round of applause for Matt. I was going to mention this later, but FYI, on September 8th here at Microsoft, we do have an info session on the courses. So we're going to have Matt and Sam and a couple of previous students. So that whole night will be all about the courses. So definitely come back for that too. All right. Next up, we have Pete Vigent with his new game, The Hallways of Hyperborea. So let's hear it for Pete.
This is, so I recently moved upstate to Beacon, and I was like, you know, I should do something on the train that's productive and is not a video game. So I decided to make a video game instead of play one. And so I have other game projects I'm working on, but I don't feel like that was the proper working conditions for me. So I wanted to learn how to program better and all that stuff that you say. So you got to see some very well polished, some procedural stuff, and now you get to see completely unpolished, brand new, first time showing it to anybody except for Kevin, who told me earlier today that I had to add sound, so I added sound just for you folks.
Yeah.
So I make local multiplayer games as a profession. And I don't have to program them because I have a wonderful development team. They're all out in the audience somewhere, so I have to say only nice things about all of them. And so I get to kind of just tell people how to make the games, and so it's nice to kind of learn what the heck that goes into doing that. So that was my goal, and that's what I did here. And I was told that I have to also point out that the name and the artwork is all FPO right now, because Kevin hates them. So what this is it's, right now I'm up to 9-player game.
This is at
We'll
Microsoft
just do,
New York.
6 players, and so Kevin, could you come up and play, and then some other folks. Actually, Kevin and I will just show you the basic idea, and then we'll bring in some other players. So I'll just put 2 players, let's see if that works. 2 players, 2 teams, and we'll say we're going for sport. Okay, so one thing that I really like to, that I was really trying to experiment with here, and I don't know if this is our player. Yep, I'm green, I think. You do not have the right controller. Here, use this one. Use it. So one thing that I was trying to experiment here was how small can I make characters in a local multiplayer game? And so my character is up at the top, he's green. I have this little attack, and I also based this, Josh will appreciate this, I based this off of a field game that I made called Territories. And the idea is we're trying to conquer these small territories that are all part of continents. And every time we conquer a territory, we get some points. And we conquer territories by flipping the switches. And so a territory is valued by as many switches are in that particular territory. If you get an entire continent, you get bonus points for that. It's kind of like the risk model. If I knock any of the switches in an opponent's territory, they lose those points. So they lose that. So if I hold on to that one, it'll just make this job a little harder. And also, if you own a territory, you have attack rights in it, meaning that, let's see if I can attack Kevin. Oh. He's mad because I beat him earlier.
Is that like a Pac-Man attack?
So right now, the game sports
something,
up to
you
9
find it.
players, and so when we play later, we'll be doing 3 teams of 3. And yeah, so I've been working on this since the end of May, and it's, you know, I mean, I think I come at this from a very different perspective, because my full-time activities are mainly designing games and not having to program them. And so it's the programming is always the challenging part for me. And as Sam has heard me say, I'm a very sloppy programmer. So I've been trying my best to make something that is not horrible looking, and I don't hurt myself in the long run by being too sloppy. So it works. Everything in this was hand drawn. It's not procedural, even though Kevin says I shouldn't tell anyone that. I have a lot of levels that I really like. I like a lot of thought went into actually like putting together the levels and putting together the pathways and stuff like that. And so maybe someday, maybe someday we will. I'll have it be procedurally generated. Anyway, so that's that, and I don't know. I guess you guys can all play it later. It'll be better if it's like 3 people. So that's all. And then so I know, like, let me answer questions that come out of it. What is my plan for this? I have no plan for this. There's no plan. It's just, I like to make games, and I like to keep myself very busy, and so if people like it, it will probably be free at some point for people to play, because that's what interests me. And if my bosses like it, then I'll sell it to them. So, any questions? As I'm playing.
Any questions?
Yeah.
It's just local multiplayer?
Just always local multiplayer. You know, if you can't smell the people you're playing with, I'm not interested. Like, there's enough online multiplayer games out there, and there's enough people who think that that's either the present or the future, and good for them. Good for all of them. I support their art, but I don't participate in it. I think that online is a dangerous place to be. I'd rather be able to, talk smack in person. What's up, Josh?
Can you explain the attack rights?
Okay, so the attack rights, yeah. So the attack rights are that, and this is all based on a field game I did that people really like. Basically, if you conquer a territory, and it changed, you have all the switches in that territory, it will illuminate the territory a little bit to show that someone owns it, and no one else is allowed to attack in that territory as long as your team owns it. And so that means that you can defend in it much easier and things like that. But of course, the moment someone flips a switch, it becomes blank again. It goes back to the general purpose. That's all.
Why is that?
Thanks, Pete. And that was, again, The Hallways of Hyperborea. So up next, we're gonna have Space Cats in Space. If you guys have been out to some of our demo and play nights and our expos, you've seen this game before. They're showing a brand new level, and you guys are on Kickstarter, right?
It's sad to say, we literally just failed it.
Oh, it just ended. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you guys can play it tonight and check it out. And this is Robot Potato Games.
Yeah. So about that, we're still trying to get enough support as possible so we can actually go the old school route and pitch to get it published.
Oh, look
Because
at that,
we
look
believe
at that,
we
looks
have
like a
to know
cat.
it's not
Oh.
any support by
The one on the
line would be greatly appreciated.
So, a year ago I presented Space Cats in Space using mostly free or stolen artwork.
You
After
should give them some space to grieve
$64,000
the
a
loss.
year, this is what we have so far. So, I'm gonna start. I'll let it explain itself.
Everybody please note the amazing theme song they had.
Shall be liberated, elevated to your rightful place at our heels. And the prowling empire shall rule as predators united. The sea!
Yeah, but when it comes to someone passing away, you gotta kind of like give the person that's grieving some space and time. Look at that! Oh my God! Space cat. There we go.
Alex is going to play and I'm going to be talking about the games. Anyone interested?
This is our visual novel portion.
Deploy all ships and focus fire on the Imperial Dreadnought.
Your Highness, we should have dialogue.
That Dreadnought is worth at least half the fleet. If it stays in orbit, there won't be a capital.
We're just going to show you the second level. It's more interesting.
Yeah.
This is Crown Princess Angelina Quintessa of the peaceful planet Meowfire. I demand you call off your dogs at once and surrender your forces.
Let's do see we've got a twin stick shooter where you play as the cats because the evil Nazi dogs have invaded your planet. So as you can see, it's fully voice acted. So it's kind of a mix between a shooter and a visual novel as you play into sort of choose your own story as you go to gain different power-ups and bonuses.
Deploys a heavy drone to tighten up your brain defenses. Don't let that get you. Yeah, overlook coming back.
Eddie is hot.
Cats alive. This Italian says ships are too small. Automated defenses to target over.
It's savvy.
Their claws are very rude. However, you go. Feeling just a bit of love. All of it's brilliant. Because it works on so many levels, you know? Because dogs fight like in your ring. Separate and close range area engagements are also dog fights. Lieutenant, yeah. That's very good. I think that's going to be a really big tactical thing.
You are ready for school.
Back to the shooting.
You have to be.
I'm taking fire.
Princess,
Give him, I think it's like 5 days for space.
So you can see our giant cat laser here.
I am.
Yeah, that's Alex right next to me. So the idea is, it's a bit bullet hellish, but it's kind of a reverse bullet hell, so you get to do a lot of the shooting instead of dodging the bullet. So it's just meant to be really fun and tactile. You get to blow up a lot of things.